Morning, everyone. Speaker for today's Tech Talk session is, as we know, it's Rajitha Pathiraja. So he will be speaking on selecting the best JavaScript web framework. So over to Rajitha.
Thank you, Diana. So, good morning, all. So, for the guys who didn't know me, I'm Rajitha Pathiraja. I'm a certified cloud developer with 3 years of enterprise development experience, mostly with JavaScript framework. So, you can find me at rajithapathiraja.xyz. And today I'm gonna show you how to select in the best JavaScript web framework. So, here is how I'm gonna do it. So, the first I'll talk about why I'm going to use JavaScript frameworks for the development. So, how people came to write JavaScript. JavaScript is executed on users' computers when they access the page. So, that means that anything can do in the JavaScript will not add processing strength onto a server. So, it is client side. So, this made site much more responsive for the end user. So as you know, modern browsers have well implemented JavaScript. So these days computers are much faster and the bandwidth is a lot cheaper. So a lot of negatives are less critical. So, however, cutting down on server roundups by doing things in JavaScript still result in more responsible web and a better user experience. So what is a web framework? So developers often use the term library and frameworks, but there's a difference. For an example, React.js is a library and Angular is a framework. But commonly, we call framework for both React and Angular. So developers, both frameworks and libraries are coded, written by someone else that is used to help solve common problems. So the technical difference between a framework and library lies in a term called inversion of control. That means a framework inverts the control of the program. It tells the developer what they need. For an example for the framework is Angular. The library is other way around. The programmer calls the library when and where and when they need it. For an example for the library, we can go with React. So remember that I am using the term framework for both libraries and also the framework from now. So to choose the best JavaScript framework for your next project, I will consider on the factors that can help you to make an intelligent choice. So here are the list of the factors I'm going to talk about. First, available for learning resources, the popularity of the framework, core features, usability, ease of integration, speed, productivity and performance, development cost, and track record. So let me start with available for learning resources. So creating an awesome framework is one thing, and communicating the core ideas behind it is different. In fact, there are many professional developers out there who can specialize in coding. So well-crafted learning resources will dramatically cut your learning curve. Even if you read a book or a course, there's a chance that you learn something new by exposing yourself to different resources such as tutorials, webinars, like that. So unfortunately, this strategy won't work if you are limited with the options. So that which leads to our next point, popularity. When we talk about popularity, if a framework is not so popular, it means there are few developers who specialize in it. So imagine that what happens if you abandon the project or find a new job. So then your employee ends up being stuck in searching for developers who know that framework you use, right? So also you can determine the popularity of the framework by quickly looking how well the project is doing on GitHub or other places. So here are some statistical collected from me to make in this presentation. As you can see, React.js has the most stars on GitHub and also the most contributions on GitHub. And also the most stack question on the Stack Overflow is Angular 2. So let's get a bit technical now. So we talk about the core features. Scan throughout the documentation, you will need to sense what this framework is about in general. It is a view layer only, full-fledged, or something in between. So here is a summary of the core features of the four frameworks. As you can see, since Angular is a full framework, It will support view, router, form processing, form validation, and HTTP communication. So React is a UI library. It only supports view and routers. Right? So usability. Maybe the framework is good fit for you because of your background. Maybe it's a little bit difficult and challenging in some ways. So reading or watching tutorial will help until you try it yourself. So my recommendation is the best way to get a feel for a framework is to use it in some mini projects. It gives you opportunity to solve everyday problems. In that case, you can gain a knowledge about that particular framework. Next thing I'm going to talk about is use of integration. So no matter how many features that your selected frameworks have, you will need some additional tools when developing. So there are great libraries out there focusing on one problem. For example, DOM manipulation, data processing, time formatting, etc. So if you are trying to integrate one of those and spend hours on it every time, maybe that's not an optimal choice, right? So the next thing I'm going to talk about is speed. The reason why the time factor is vital when choosing a framework is that without the time to study, test and code that framework, is pointless to struggle, right? So in some cases, you will need to deliver a project in a short time. So introducing a new JS framework at that moment will definitely cause you a problem. Therefore, it's important to plan ahead of time. And when it's time to planning, do a check on quality of the code and complexity of the code. Because complexity is also directly affect the time to market. So, also, there are many frameworks that will work perfectly when it comes to quick time to market. So the next thing is productivity and performance. So nowadays, most of the top JavaScript frameworks perform reasonably well. So if you want to get a comparison between those frameworks, productivity and performance, you can check this link below. And the development cost. So turning your next big application idea into reality comes with the price tag, right? So, and the choice of JavaScript framework directly impacts that development cost. Whenever you struggling to find the best JavaScript framework for your project, take these two main issues into account. First thing is the team of the developers and their cost. The second one is the maintenance cost of the web application. So this is the final next step, track record. So a new framework also always take bursts to solve an existing problem, right? So in this new JavaScript framework turn out to be a magic wand for you for most of the cases because it helps you to solve that problem in a couple of days, which earlier took months to crack. So, however, within a few months of the release of these new frameworks, you find yourself some problems because there can be beta versions like that. So take that into mind. So when it comes to the frameworks, JavaScript as front-end framework as well as back-end framework. So let me first talk about the JavaScript front-end framework. This analysis is based on the scope and the key features of the most popular front-end JavaScript frameworks in 2020 based on the NPM downloads and the programmer satisfaction. Let me start with the React. React is one of the most popular JavaScript frameworks in today's time. It's maintained by Google and is specialized tool for building dynamic user interfaces for web applications with a high incoming traffic. So here are some key features of the React.js. First thing is JS6 in JavaScript XML. It's an extension that makes it easy to web developers to modify their DOM using simple HTML style code. Actually, it's written on JavaScript, but it looks like HTML style code. The second concept is virtual DOM. React has a concept called virtual DOM. So virtual DOM is a copy of the website real DOM. And React uses this copy to see what part of the actual DOM need to change and change when an event happens. So this approach, this kind of selective updating takes less computing power and less loading time. So that means React is pretty much fast compared to other frameworks. The second front-end framework I'm going to talk about is Angular. Angular is the most powerful, efficient, and open source JavaScript framework. This framework is maintained by Google and it's used for single-page application. So this development framework is only primarily because it gives developer the best condition for combining JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Some of the core features of AngularJS are followed: data binding, MVC, writing next code, unit testing, very like that. So due to these key features, Angular has become one of the most powerful JavaScript frameworks among the programming community. You can also choose Angular if you don't like to choose among additional libraries as with React.js. The next front-end library I'm going to talk about is Vue.js. Vue.js has the concept of Angular and React. For an example, it has a feature called two-way data binding, which is get from the Angular, and a concept called virtual DOM, which is a part of the React. So Vue.js has rapidly gained popularity in the programming community due to some key features, which has a clear separation of templates, as CSS code and JavaScript code that offer great convenience for developers. Also, it has one of the simplest and detailed documentation when compared to other frameworks. The main disadvantages of using Vue.js, it will run by a community. It has no reputed company backing for like React.js and Angular. React.js is backed by Facebook and Angular is backed by Google. The next front-end framework I'm going to talk about is React. It's a new JavaScript framework. So they define it as an alternative to React. It's a very lightweight library. It's only 3 KB of the disk space. So you can see these are some of the goals we are planning to deliver. So as you can see in the slides, React and Angular is pretty much popular in the community, but also is a little bit difficult to learn for new web developers compared to the Vue.js backbone. So now let's talk about the backend JavaScript web frameworks. So the turning point of JavaScript as a server-side programming language took place in 2019. A young software engineer called Ryan Dahl, using Google V8 engine, some C++ libraries, and created the server-side JavaScript environment called Node.js. So because of the success of Node.js, many frameworks based on Node.js were created. So to analyze, this analysis is based on the scope and key features of the most popular backend JavaScript frameworks in 2020, based on NPM downloads and program satisfaction. To understand the different backend frameworks, I'm going to show you the benefits as well as the drawbacks of each framework. So let's start with Express.js. Express.js is one of the oldest frameworks, and also it has a massive community backing up. Also, it has a well-written documentation, but Express doesn't offer any security solutions. So therefore, ensuring the security of the program is entirely up to the developers. So next thing is Next.js. React is currently the most popular front-end JavaScript framework available, but the React does not offer an end-to-end framework. So therefore, Next.js was created as an end-to-end server-side rendering framework based on React. So because of this, based on React, popular tools like React Material UI are compatible with the Next.js. The downside of the Next.js is its performance benchmark is much more lower than their competitors. So if you can have a concern about the performance, this may be a problem. The next framework I'm going to talk about is Next.js. So Next is a free and open source web application framework based on Vue ecosystem. If you are using Vue.js, you can easily learn Next.js. So Next.js. Next is most used to build server-side rendered application. The last frameworks I'm going to talk about is it's called Gatsby. So Gatsby is a modern, flexible React and GraphQL-based static site generator. So unlike the Next.js, which we discussed above, Gatsby does not perform server-side rendering. Instead, it generates HTML content to the client side during the build time. So as a result, the website built with Gatsby are actually faster than normal websites. But the downside of the Gatsby is it is not ideal solution for content-heavy enterprise scale websites such as e-commerce stores. So let me summarize my presentation. So first, we discussed the steps to consider when selecting a framework. So after that, we discussed about the popular front-end and back-end frameworks and their features, advantages, and disadvantages. As history has shown, JavaScript will continue to remain dominant in the programming community. So because of this reason, new JavaScript frameworks are constantly introduced into the community. So every framework is unique and it has its own strength and weakness. Therefore, as a developer, you should carefully analyze and understand the project requirements so that can cross off the majority of your available choice. So this is a bonus slide. I think most of guys heard about there's a new concept called microfrontends. So the term microfrontends extend the concept of microservices to the front-end web. So for an example, you can create an application using different frameworks. So for an example, Team A can work on featured movies using AngularJS. Team B can work on movie list using React.js, and Team C can work on the profile page using Vue.js, like that. So if you use the microfrontend concept, you can get the advantages of using different technologies, different frameworks. So I hope that someone will do a tech talk about the microfrontends in the future. So thank you all for participating in my tech talk. You can ask any questions regarding selecting a web framework.
Okay, thank you, Rajitha. So hope you all understood and found it interesting. So this will be uploaded on social media. So thank you everyone for taking part in this session. Hoping to have another Tech Talk session towards the end of this month. So thank you everyone. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Rajitha.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rajitha.
Raji.
Thank you.